that Idi Amin's son, Lumumba Amin, made a video last year suggesting that it was Museveni who murdered Ben Kiwanuka in the 70s. According to him, Museveni was seen driving a car registration number UUU 171 in which Ben Kiwanuka was abducted and later murdered. Museveni went ahead in his book, Showing the Mustard Seed, to reveal that he was actually the one who was driving that car on the day which his terrorist group was raided by government soldiers. So, your guess is just as good as mine. You also remember the confession by General Kaindo Tafire that during their bush war days, Museveni and his bandits would raid villages, rape and kill civilians, and then blame it on the Obote government in order to have the population turn against Obote. And even today, you all are aware that the regime pays several propagandists and bloggers to discredit our struggle for a better Uganda and for freedom and democracy. They hire hardcore criminals like Sobi to do the dirty work for them, and of course eliminate them after using the hardest and the most effective assault on the Museveni regime internationally since 1986. Yes, Museveni for a long time has invested so much of Ugandan taxpayers' money trying to paint a rosy picture of this regime, but we managed to expose him, to undress him to the entire international community. And right now, he's no better than Idi Amin or Robert Mugabe or Mobutu Sese Seko. He is known for the dictator that he is, and of course we continue to expose him further and deeper. But again, like I always tell you, we are still fighting on, because as you see, 2024 promises to be even tougher. This year alone, ladies and gentlemen, began with the murder of a very promising music artist called Kato Hussein, also known as Black Ice. He was attacked and killed in Kamocha at his home. But as usual, there was no police investigation and no police report whatsoever. The murder was swept under the carpet, and we lost Black Ice like we've lost many other Ugandans. Then we saw the alleged gun attack, which claimed the life of Pastor Ujingo's driver or bodyguard or church elder, also a UPDF and SFC soldier. This was a very unique case, ladies and gentlemen, because, unlike in the past, even if there were many obvious questions for the police to ask and to launch investigations, just like it was in the past, there was no investigation, there was no arrest, but instead the military ordered Ugandans, especially those on social media, not to discuss this alleged attack. No wonder the public and the Ugandans, especially on social media, decided to take the investigations in their own hands, and we continue to follow those investigations. Also, every time such a shooting happens, ladies and gentlemen, the regime quickly blames it on ADF rebels before, of course, carrying out any conclusive investigation. We do not dispute the existence of ADF rebels, but neither do we dispute the possibility of the regime masterminding such crimes, after which they parade especially Muslim people before the media. You all remember when Museveni's minister told the parliament that the soldiers that were seen on camera beating people on the streets of Kampala were actually from West Africa. You all remember that Jamiru Mukulu, who is said to be the leader of the ADF, was captured on the news shouting at the entrance of a court above City Square that Museveni regime is the one that gives them money and weapons to the ADF rebels. We saw how the media and civil society were intimidated and largely silenced. We also saw many religious leaders either intimidated into silence or compromise to preach evil as good and good as evil. We saw how few greedy politicians were given dirty money to destroy sister opposition parties that their comrades have spent so much effort, sweat and blood to sustain for decades. We saw the economy and social services continuing to collapse under the heavy weight of corruption and mismanagement. Uganda, ladies and gentlemen, now ranks as number 38 among the most corrupt countries. I mean, Uganda is only better than 38 countries in the whole world. Otherwise, it beats every other country in corruption. We lose almost a quarter of our national budget to corruption. Towards the end of last year, we borrowed 7 trillion shillings in just 1 week, most of which, of course, is lost to corruption and keeping the federal family comfortable. As we speak right now, every Ugandan, even a 1-day-old child, has a debt of 2 million shillings on their head. 2 million shillings, even on a 1-day child. That's where we are as a nation. Recently, you saw General Museveni shamelessly appointing NRM stooges to the Electoral Commission, a commission which is supposed to be impartial and independent. And yet, with all these challenges, we choose not to give up. We choose to fight on for a new Uganda because we believe in it and we know that we must achieve it in our lifetime. Thank you. When we carried out the NUP countrywide tour, we all saw millions of Ugandans turning up to receive and embrace and endorse our message of change and liberation. When we announced the launch of this new headquarters of the National Unity Platform, thousands of people converged here to witness the opening of yet another command center of the struggle for the liberation of our country. We also witnessed the massive support and solidarity of our fellow Ugandans in the diaspora and friends of Uganda that continue to stand with us in our struggle for freedom in Uganda. Ladies and gentlemen, we saw the world premiere of our documentary film, The People's President, which continues to expose the atrocities that General Museveni and his bloody regime have committed against the people of Uganda. Just 2 days ago, this documentary won the Global Cinema Eye Award in New York. And as if that is not good enough, it has been shortlisted for the prestigious Oscar Award. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, to thank the Almighty God for seeing us through 2023 and allowing us to see 2024. We have lost so many of our people in the past year and we continue to pray for their souls. I also want to take this opportunity to officially congratulate the new leader of our parliamentary front, the Right Honorable Museveni. We see ourselves in you and are looking forward so much to seeing the voice of the common people reflected on the floor of Parliament. Friends, as we begin 2024, I would request us to take a moment to reflect on as we look into the future. In 2023, we saw top regime officials, including Museveni's Vice President, Jessica Lupo, the Speaker of Parliament, Anita Mong, and the Prime Minister, Robin Amabanja, and many other regime ministers, including the Minister for Ethics and Integrity, sharing amongst themselves the relief items that were meant for the suffering people of Karamoja, Uganda's poorest region. While they were busy looting what was meant to save Karamoja, the people of Karamoja were busy dying. Reports indicate that over 900 people died of hunger in Karamoja, where over 60% of the population is poor. Last year, we saw a renewed wave of abductions. Many of our people were kidnapped, tortured, and some of them are still missing to the present day. Many of the victims that were lucky to be freed told us horrifying stories of what happened to them while in CMI. Many women and men were raped. You all remember one of our comrades, Alex Kaiwa, telling us that he was sodomized in CMI by Uganda's military officials. I know the media tried so much to sit on this story. I know Felix Kulaije did not say anything about them raping fellow men in CMI, but will not stop reminding the nation about this. Many of our comrades, including Wumal Magara, Muyodi, and many others, were brutally arrested and are still languishing in prison as we speak now, without due process whatsoever. While Honorable Sewanyana and Honorable Sejirinya were released on bail after spending 524 days in prison for crimes they never committed, we saw Olivia Rutaya and her colleagues enter the third year in prison. They were abducted in early 2021 for having supported the opposition. They were charged in a military court, and as we speak right now, their trial has not. Comrades, we all are aware of the top secret plans by the regime to assassinate leaders of the National Unity Platform and later blame it on ADF. I believe by now most of you have seen the tweet by Honorable Zake exposing the threat to his life. Last year, I had to cut short my trip in Kabale after a friendly European embassy gave us intelligence that there was a plan to kill me by shooting on that tour. Indeed, gunmen were captured on camera, edging closer to me, one of whom was wrestled down by my security team with a loaded gun ready to shoot. He was disarmed, handed to police in PG, but as usual, that was the end of the story. Nothing was done. So, with that background, we have reason to believe that the ongoing shootings are just a dress rehearsal for the regime, but the main targets are the opposition leaders, especially the leaders of the National Unity Platform. They want the population to get used to the excuse of ADF so that by the time they come for our lives, the population will be convinced already that the killing was a terror attack by the ADF rebels, not political assassination by the NRM. So, ladies and gentlemen, fellow Ugandans, be alert. These are criminals, these are rebels, these are terrorists, these are murderers, and they must never fool you in case anything happens to any of us. Either the regime is responsible for all these shootings and killings, or it knows who is behind it. I mean, isn't it suspicious that the regime bought and installed CCTV cameras around the city and spent more than 450 billion shillings of taxpayers' money, but they've never even identified one shooter through all the years? Doesn't that disturb or provoke your mind? You have seen the regime spending a lot of money. Now recently, they've been spending an obscene amount of money for temporary fixing of roads and other infrastructures ahead of the non-aligned movement summit, and yet they never do these things for the citizens. They never fix the roads, they never fix the infrastructure for the citizens. Of course, in a well-governed country, a summit like the NAM summit would be a blessing because it would mean more foreign exchange, therefore more business for the locals and the citizens. But in Uganda's case, what was supposed to be a blessing has actually turned out to be a curse, like it was during the Chogam summit. So many livelihoods have been disrupted, and some have even been completely destroyed, all in the name of putting up a fake image. Reports indicate that more than 3,000 businesses have been either closed or disrupted. Many people have been rounded up and detained, especially the homeless people in Kampala. Traffic and transport has become a nightmare and generally lives of the citizens have been brought to a standstill. All this has been done in the name of the NAM Summit, whose benefits are actually limited to a few political elite who are making a kill out of it. Before long, I'm sure you're going to be seeing scandals and reports of who stole what, of who embezzled what, but that is the daily business that happens under the Museveni regime. I also want the democratic leaders that are invited, that are attending the NAM Summit, to know and understand that they're actually being hosted by an illegitimate ruler. Yes, an illegitimate government which is holding people on gunpoint against their will. You have seen the government using the NAM Summit to paint a rosy picture to the international visitors, to the extent that Museveni's minister, Chris Baryomunsi, actually ordered the people of Uganda, the suffering, the hungry and angry people of Uganda, Baryomunsi ordered them to smile forcefully when the visitors come, so that they can, you know, pretend to be happy, pretend to be comfortable. Friends, I'm requesting you to use this opportunity and every other opportunity to expose this regime and to expose the reality that indeed Uganda is bleeding. We must do everything possible for the world to know that Uganda is bleeding, because this is yet another opportunity. No wonder they're forcing us to smile, because they want to cover up their mess. We must continue calling upon the international community to stop financing Museveni and his oppression against the people of Uganda. We must continue demanding for our missing people, dead or alive. We must continue demanding for the release of all political prisoners, and of course demanding for justice for all those that have been killed extrajudicially. We must continue fighting for freedom, for justice, and for equality. We should evoke Article 3 of the Constitution. Article 3, ladies and gentlemen, commands us to do everything within our power to restore constitutional rule, to restore the rule of law, using every necessary means. So we should evoke Article 3 of Uganda's Constitution. And we should remember that it doesn't only command us to restore constitutional rule, but it actually protects us while we go about that goal. Yeah, I was asking you to not stop demanding for what's rightfully ours, to continue fighting back. We must continue mobilizing and organizing ourselves at all levels of society, so that we can together put an end to this dictatorship, or we shall continue to be slaves. We need to fight for our freedom, ladies and gentlemen, because nobody will fight for us if we don't do it for ourselves. Remember, the struggle continues. This is a new year. Let us engage another gear. Let us do everything possible, and let us start now. I thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for God and my country.
Nandikozesezza akagundi kakubala atabubalaza bannayuganda ajjavayo ne statement ezitakolagana, ajjavayo ne statement ezitagatta. Bannayuganda bangi nnyo basibiddwako abantu baabwe. Tugamba abantu bano be musibye, abantu bano gavumenti beewambye, abantu bano bali mu safe houses, fenga abalwanzi b'eddembe ly'obuntu. Tugamba nti nabo balina eddembe ng'abalala, nabo balina eddembe nga General Muhoozi bw'atalaga eggwanga, nabo balina eddembe ng'abalala, nabo balina eddembe ng'abantu abalala bonna mu ggwanga Uganda. N'olw'ensonga eyo abantu bano bateebwe, abantu bano babeera nga gye bali mu batuwe, abantu bano babeera nga bafu, mubaleete mubakwase famire z'abantu bano, kubanga naffe ng'abakulembeze tufunye obuzito bw'amaanyi nnyo. Batulumba ku ofiisi zaffe, batusaba abantu abo, naffe tetumanyi wakulaga. Bwe twandiraze awali gazetedde obulungi ke kakiiko k'eddembe ly'obuntu, naye n'akakiiko k'eddembe ly'obuntu kennyini ensonga zino kazeesambajja bwesambajja. So nno ekiseera twagala okuŋŋaanya abalonzi b'eddembe ly'obuntu mu ggwanga lyonna, twegattire wamu nga kitole okulaba nti tulwanyisa obukulembeze bwa Mariam Wangadya, okulaba nti alekulira ofiisi, tuteekemu omuntu agenda okuwa ekitiibwa eddembe ly'obuntu.